So, what do we do? Pretty much it. What did Thomas Jefferson tell us the solution is to constitutional abuses? Education. And if you believe that, it's time to stop listening to the children and start being an adult and educating your own self. Because folks, with the power of the World Wide Web, the answers are all out there now. I didn't learn this stuff this morning. You know, all of this is out here. I wasn't born with this knowledge. It was only 5 years ago that I even became aware of what's going on, that I even looked into it. And that's the only difference between me and y'all. That's it, is that I've been studying for 5 years. You haven't. There's no difference between us at all. I'm not some smart, major league smart guy. I'm just a guy just like y'all, but I care about my country, and I started reading, and the more I read, the more I became interested, and the more I became interested, the more I read. It was a vicious cycle. I haven't slept since 1983. So we educate ourselves first, because if our goal is education, if we want to, what's the Tea Party's slogan? Wake up, America, right? Will we hold ourselves to the same standard that we expect of our neighbors? We want them to wake up. How many of you heard the Federal Reserve explain to you tonight the way I did from Glenn Beck or from any news channel?
I heard from Glenn Beck
You heard him explain that?
on the clock and the national debt and how it works and everything.
Did he
Yeah,
explain to you how it's an unpayable debt?
yeah.
How
Well,
that
he
interest-
went on. In fact, he
Well,
even
good.
had a clock
I'll
and
give
showed
him
you.
kudos. Did he explain to you the fractional reserve system?
No, he might have, but I didn't see it.
Well, good. How many of you heard about Smedley Butler from your media? How many know that the head of the Federal Reserve in World War II, Paul Warburg, was at the same exact time the head of the German Federal Reserve Bank? Y'all didn't learn that in school? So the same guy running our Federal Reserve is running the German Federal Reserve. How many of you knew that in World War II, Union Banking Corporation was found guilty of the highest crimes to our nation, that it was dissolved because it was found guilty, this is in our congressional record, it was found guilty of directly funneling money from the Rockefellers through Union Banking Corporation to the Nazi War Party. How many of you knew that? You know who owned and ran Union Banking Corporation? A man named Prescott Bush. That's right, the father of George H.W. and the grandfather of George W. Bush. So here we have a man found convicted of the highest crimes to our country, yet his son and grandson go on to be president. Now, I think there's more going on than what we're being told on TV.
Yeah.
So, Cecily. Go back one, sorry. That's it. So what do? Well, here's what we do. I can't tell y'all what to do. Cecily and I started a group called Educators of Liberty back in Texas. There's several chapters there now. We've moved here, and here's what we do. And all we do. We passed out tens of thousands of DVDs. I have no idea anymore how many DVDs I passed out. And I'm going to ask Cecily to come up here and join me for a minute. You see, we believe that these are the books of the 21st century. And for the cost of one book, we can get 100 of these out. These cost 25 cents. So that's including the little label that's on here, the disc, and the package that it comes with. So for 25 cents, we can get this to a friend now. It sure can. And so that's what we do. We have a great person who's given us DVD duplicators. We can burn 18 copies at one time. Boom. We've got 6 hands here that are professionals at putting labels on disc and stuffing them in an envelope.
Yeah, I had him over there.
So I'm not saying that instead of the Tea Party group, work with Educators of Liberty. I'm not saying that. I'm saying in addition to the Tea Party group, work with us as well. We went to Pioneer Days here in Melbourne. How many discs did we give out that day? 180 discs given out. Now, will everyone that got them watch them? Probably not. That's not the point. For $40, we got 180 discs out to people. For $40. That's not a bad turnaround right there, y'all. But what it takes is people to hand them out. Cecily, tell them how we met.
We met on the street corner, working for Congressman Ron Paul for president. And he started a meetup on Friday night on downtown Fort Worth. And I don't know if you've ever been to Fort Worth, but it's all nightclubs,
Yeah.
restaurants, shows.
Bunch of drug rednecks is what it
It's
is.
just chaos. And that was the worst, I thought this is the worst place to be. But he thought of it, and sure enough, we met more people, we passed out more things. People asked us about the Federal Reserve on the
Tell
street
about
corner.
the first sign wave though, wasn't it? The sign. That's the story.
I had never been to a sign wave before, and he handed me my sign, and I talked to him for about 10 minutes, and finally he said, Cecily, this is a sign wave. You need to hold your sign up here instead of down here. And I will admit, that took a lot of courage to stand on the corner and hold up a sign in front of strangers, knowing that they're gonna say, who's Ron Paul, and I have to tell them. But what happened was, I loved that man, and I had seen his record for 30 years. I knew he had been the only congressman who voted no against all this terrible stuff that has ruined our country. And he was willing to suffer being made fun of and called Dr. No, because he was against any legislation that was against the Constitution. So I was willing to stand up, and I overcame my shyness, and I overcame my fear by knowing what a fine man he was. And that has since made a difference in my life in many ways. But it made a difference that I was willing to take a stand for myself and for my granddaughters, because I know our country's going downhill. And I know I can't sit here and do nothing.
Yeah.
Hey, she didn't, you know. I've seen Cecily with my own eyes. This is a lady who was holding the sign down here like this 2 years ago.
Where you're out of.
Walk up to a group of bikers in here in Melbourne going, have you guys seen this movie? And she's passing out movies to bikers, right? Who 2 years ago, she would have ran in terror from it. The point is this, is that it seems scary that it says, like, Scott, that's such a silly idea. I'm not going to walk up to a stranger and hand them a DVD. Every single person I talked to at Pioneer Days, is that what it is, Pioneer Days? Every single person I talked to said, thank you very much. You know, because, you know, I'd start out with, do you think our government's corrupt? The real line is this. This is what I use, it never, ever fails. Sir, have you received your free DVD yet? It never fails. I mean, it never fails.
I want to say one thing and stop right now. Scott was invited by a delegate to the National Republican Convention, and he went last September 2008. And he was going to video it for our group that had raised money for these delegates to go, because it's like $5,000 a person. So we had garage sales and bake sales and all this stuff to raise money for these two guys to go. And they wouldn't let him in with his video camera. They decided at this particular convention that they wanted to keep their proceedings secret. So Scott
Outlaw
had
all cameras, video or otherwise.
yeah, Scott had a video camera, and he had all this film that we had paid for, and he didn't want it to go to waste. So there were thousands of protesters there. So he went out on the street, he interviewed protesters, policemen, National Guard, all these people, and he has hundreds of hours of his interviews. But while he was doing that, we had given them DVDs for 500 movies, and he passed out movies to 500 different policemen and National Guard.
And gave them constitutions.
He gave them constitutions, but this is the story I wanted to tell. There was one black man that he interviewed on the street, and he gave him a movie. And when he was really tired one day and fixing to head back, he had worked 7 or 8 hours on the street, this guy chased him down and said, hey, I just want
This
you
is a 17-year-old kid. It couldn't be more than 17.
And he said, hey, I took that movie home, my family watched it, and we're just horrified that this is happening to our country. He said, they're home making copies of this now to give them to other people. He said, people have to know this. Our government's been lying to us all these years, and people have to know. And Scott felt like, at that moment,
I had no voice at that moment in time. I honestly, you can see on my YouTube channel these interviews with people, and I'm going, sir, do you believe in the Republic? Because I can no longer speak. I've talked to so many people. I've handed out so many movies. My feet are throbbing from having walked all over St. Paul every day. I was with an Iraq war veteran who had a force march for me every morning to the state capitol. And so while I was in the service, it's been 3 or 4 days since I had been in. So wasn't in quite the shape I used to be. But the point is this, is that while it may seem to not, how could these make a difference? That's what I'm trying to say. It may seem silly that these could make a difference. I'm telling you, I have so many stories about the validation of them making a difference. And I could stand there for another hour and just tell you those stories, but I won't make you sit there.
I want to tell one story.